This radio show curates Japanese anime culture and economy. TORO Animation Research.
From essential recommendations to obscure trivia, this is Ryota Fujitsu's Anime Lab.
SBS Radio TORO Animation Research Institute. In this segment, our chief researcher Ryota Fujitsu will randomly introduce historically significant anime and present anime-related topics in a column-style format. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, this is anime critic Ryota Fujitsu. So today, the entire program is dedicated to our assignment report on Gundam Zeonic Front, and I'd like to talk about the original source material for Zeonic Front, or rather its foundation, which is Mobile Suit Gundam, specifically about its early concept. Well, it's more like a rough draft than an early concept, but anyway, let me explain what I mean. In Zeonic Front, the character Chalia Bull, who appeared in the original Mobile Suit Gundam, is featured prominently. This character, who only appeared in one episode in the original series, becomes an important figure in this version.
The green guy is becoming popular.
Yeah, Heigman, but this character has actually been around since the very first story outline that director Tomino wrote for Gundam, you know. His role on television has become quite diminished, but he's writing down fairly well-developed ideas. There's a simple collection of notes dated August 28, 1978 called Gunboy Approach. Basically, he's jotting down notes about wanting to create this kind of work. By the way, this project gradually evolved. By December, it became the new project Gunboy, which later became Gundam and officially got started. So from summer through winter, around fall, a whole lot of things were being decided. At this initial stage, director Tomino was envisioning a one-year TV series, so 6 episodes for one story arc. So if we take this as one block and have 7 blocks, that gives us 6 times 7, which is 42 episodes. For the remaining 10 episodes, we do reruns, basically re-airing episodes we've already done, plus some special episodes to round it out to 52 episodes for a full year. That's the plan we're putting together. So we're preparing 7 major interconnected storylines that will build up to the climax. That's the plan we're working with.
It's structured into 7 major storylines.
Yeah, exactly. So to put it simply, it's 6 episodes. Why 6 episodes? Well, each slot is 21 minutes, so essentially we're talking about a 2-hour movie here. That's the concept. And as for how the 7 blocks are structured, the first one is Earth. This is really the side 7 episode where, well, I won't say Gundam, but the protagonist gets into the robot, takes off from there, and gets caught up in the war. That's the Earth episode.
That's a famous part of Gundam, isn't it? From one of the early episodes.
After this, as they get caught up in the frontline battles, there are various enemy memos at this point. There's this psychic girl named Asteroid Lala, and an enemy warrior called Kukuru's Doan, you know. Kukuru's Doan eventually becomes the name of a deserter in the TV series, but at this point he was quite a strong character, and
this is a character that also had a remake in the theatrical version.
At this point, it's just that the name is being used, nothing much is decided yet at this stage. Then Block 3 is Demon God, denma written with the characters for Demon and God, Kishin. And here we get the name Ramba Ral appearing. And the 4th one, Wandering, has Lonely Flanagan, again an enemy name coming up. From around here, we gradually start seeing notes about people who didn't appear in the actual series, but Block 5 is Clash. There's a character called White Knight Nova, and a Federation ace pilot named Haro appears. So there's this battle happening, and then Char, who appeared early on, makes his comeback in Block 6 called Birth. There's this major narrative flow that leads to the final episode 7. The Abyss, the depths, you know. In this episode, there's a rough storyline structure built around an enemy character having a dialogue with Chalia Bull. So actually there's a female soldier named Asteroid Lala as a character equivalent to Lala, but in reality the main story is this dialogue with Chalia Bull that happens in the Abyss. This corresponds to the dialogue with Lala that occurred in episode 41 of Mobile Suit Gundam.
Lala is a girl, and speaking of the original source material, she's the woman that Amuro and Char were both vying for. I know I'm being way too frank and oversimplifying it here, but that's kind of how I see her character.
I see, yes.
It says October 30th last message from the dialogue with Chalia Bull, and here it describes what kind of conversation he'll have with Chalia Bull. At the climax, this is totally Tomino's terminology, so I think it's hard to understand even if you read it normally, but I'll read it anyway. Humanity is primitive. They are not rich enough to view the universe and the world with a mind of nothingness that cannot help but do nothing. Humanity still needs the game called war. Knowledge and reason are born from that chaos. Humanity is still in an age of expectation for knowledge and reason itself. So basically he's saying that humans are in the process of evolving. We can be called pre-humans. Now our spirits are completely scattered. We cannot teach humanity as was done in ancient times. The age of transmission is over. Humanity must now elevate itself through its own power. Simply put, there was this plan to have a conversation with Chalia Bull about something like human evolution. And what happened was, in reality, based on this rough draft, director Tomino would create the plot for the first half, then the scriptwriters would write it, and the story would get finalized at that stage. So gradually, by the middle section, director Tomino wasn't writing the plots anymore, but as they headed toward the latter half, the director really wanted to introduce ESP-like elements and incorporate human evolution, so to steer the work in that direction, he started writing the plots himself again partway through the TV series. Ultimately, that's where the character Lala gets featured, and it develops into this storyline where Amuro and Lala use their new type abilities to envision humanity's future as a vision. So you might wonder if Chalia Bull just ended up having his name used for that guest character and that was it, but actually, director Tomino was writing a novel, and this time director Tomino's novelization is completely different from the TV anime. The characters are the same, though some characters are different people too. And in that story, Chalia Bull and Kosunral become quite important characters in the latter half, and the reason for this is Lala. Originally, it was supposed to end with just one book, but because of the Gundam boom, they asked him to write a second and third book. And since they kill off Lala in the second volume, Tomino himself starts bringing in various ideas from the initial concepts, and that's when Chalia Bull begins to get featured and written into the story. So from fairly early on, Tomino had this new type character equivalent to Chalia Bull in his mind. On November 3rd, 1978, there's The Last Message. Essentially, as a drama leading up to a message about humanity's final evolution, it says that introducing an Esper among the regular characters is possible. Among the regular characters? So, in what was probably written afterwards, this character relationship chart kind of thing, characters with star marks were noted as having potential ESP abilities. The director really wanted to explore the new type concept from the very beginning, and Chalia Bull was a character he had envisioned as representing this new type idea, imagined as the character who would ultimately face off against the protagonist. But that didn't end up being how the story developed, and it was created in a different form instead. But coming full circle, having Chalia Bull used in Gundam's Yonic Front as a character who confronts the protagonist, I thought that was a pretty interesting turn of events. Gundam was also made into a trilogy of compilation films, but Chalia Bull's scenes were cut from those, you know.
Huh?
Since that was just a one-episode enemy character.
Yes.
If you think about it normally, they're treated more like guest characters. I see. But who would have thought it would see this much spotlight in the Reiwa era? Though the fact that Chalia Bull had the potential to receive this much attention means...
Potentially speaking, yeah, it was there. Originally in the Gundam universe, people who've made the journey to Jupiter and back are sitting pretty well, you know? In Mahjong terms, this Chalia Bull is one of the rare few among them. He's a man who's been to Jupiter and back.
I think that was mentioned in the character introduction, I see.
So in that sense as well, he was definitely a character worth digging deeper into. And that wraps up our discussion about Gundam Zigzags.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fujitsu. How did you enjoy this episode of SBS Radio's TORO Animation Institute? TORO Ani is broadcast live every Monday at 7 p.m. on Japan's SBS Radio. Please be sure to tune in. This has been Ryota Aoki, host of SBS Radio's TORO Animation Institute.